Hello and welcome to Cafe DC. I'm Faz Rahman. Our guest today is a young media professional who just happened to be here in DC. We'll talk to her about the media scene in Pakistan and different challenges right now faced by young and senior and veteran journalists in the country. Paryush, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just start by saying I was looking at your CV or resume or your bio, so to speak, and mashallah, you've done so well. You know, at such a young age, your experience is so diverse. But the first thing which jumps out of this experience is your involvement with the content and ethics development in the media industry. And even the industry itself is quite nascent, it's fledgling, it's still struggling. Sure. So what are your challenges?
One of the primary challenges that in our development work that we get to face in Pakistan is helping journalists sort of understand that this is needed. If they were to grow professionally, it is very important to have the required professional competence. And one of the fundamental pillars of actually in journalism is having the ethical dimensions in place while positioning or writing content. So I think the tricky area is getting them to understand that first, and also then helping their media organizations to recognize that this is an important aspect of journalism. Like you mentioned in the introduction, it's still nascent, so we still have a long way to go when it comes to...
But there seems to be a big disconnect with what you're saying and actual practice in Pakistan. I watch a lot of Pakistani TV all the time, and you don't see a level of maturity that you expect if you look into your work. That I mean, you have done for quite for some time, like maybe 5-6 years, right?
Yeah.
That you've been developing this material for the journalists. But you rightly pointed out that it's not just it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't just depend on a journalist. It also depends on the overall, the organization, the overall structure that he's or she is part of. So why there's such a disconnect? I mean, yes, you work with the journalists, but at the same time, and as you pointed out, working with the owners and the media operators, you know, how does that pan out?
I think if you take a broader look at the information ecosystem in Pakistan, there are a lot of loopholes. So, and the editorial policies in every media organization, they sort of vary. And it's not one consistent, a policy is not one consistent element in an organization in Pakistan.
I'm sorry, I'm just you know, interrupting you, but do you think, I mean, you mentioned a good expression, I would call it an expression, editorial policy.
Yeah.
And I was also a part of you know, Pakistani media for some time, back in 2007, in a leadership role. And the thing that I found out was really, you know, there was no editorial policy. And you're talking about like some big, huge channels.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you really think that, you know, the major news channels, they're driven by a certain written or understood media policy, I mean, editorial policy?
Well, then there is this whole debate when you sit with editors from all around the world, like will the editors, and let me just take a slight tangent here, will the editor's role be replaced by algorithms? Say for instance, you don't need editors anymore and you need computers determining what kind of content will be played. So I think where there is a direct influence by the media owners of an organization on the content, the editorial management naturally goes amiss in the whole policy domain. the need here, which we have started to sort of recognize quite recently, is to how do you strengthen the editorial management. And if there isn't an editorial management, because a lot of news organization, I'm talking about broadcast in particular, because print is slightly still stronger in that domain. They don't have an editorial board. Right, so there is no director news.
Print has a slightly longer time to make decisions, and because they need to wait till the copy goes to the press. But broadcasting, they just something is happening and they have to go and break the news. Yeah. With no process in between.
Well, that's the point exactly. I mean, news organizations aren't thinking structurally in the sense that it's not linear anymore. It requires input from various domains, and one of the filtration point is your editorial. So, so the content could possibly hit rock bottom, and we see that when news organizations in Pakistan are not investing in investigative journalism. So I think the challenges are mainly at the management level, in order to sort of understand that what is required for. So it's not really content driven. It's commercial driven that you see on TV, and that's where you, I think, rightly sort of pointed out, that's where you see the editor's role being limited. If you can see, I mean, even so in print, if you would see a huge front page, half a page ad, so you're naturally taking away public interest information from the front page of a newspaper. So you see those kind of decisions being taken place, which are marketing driven rather than editorially driven. So it's becoming less about content and more about commercialism.
Very good. Prayush, will take a very short break here, and then we'll, when we come back, we're going to talk to you about your role as a content manager, or how do you develop content. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Everyone used to be trained on different elements, and so to speak, so that they can actually progress with the rest of the industry. This is something that is clearly missing from the media industry in Pakistan.
Welcome back. I'm Faiz Rahman and you're watching Cafe DC. Our guest today is a young media professional, Prayush Chaudhary. Prayush, welcome back. So let's talk about, yes, ethics, training. And actually, before I go to my next question, there's this thing going on in Pakistan. Somebody who became an instant star, overnight star in the media industry, despite his little not so perfect background. I'm talking about Chand Nawab, a phenomenon, right? And the guy became so famous because his video, not so perfect, P2C, went viral, and now he's part of, he inspired a movie, a Bollywood movie, right? So actually he gave an interview to Dawn, your former employer. And the blame that he put on about his not so perfect performance in that famous P2C, right?
P2C, yeah.
Yeah. So he said because it was lack of training, because the management, the editors, they didn't support him well. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know that he shouldn't have gone to this busy place and try to do his stand-up right in front of a train, blah, blah, blah. So, again, going back to your argument, I just wanted to bring this funny situation into the mix of this discussion. Yeah, I mean, even people, the journalists complain because they don't get enough training. Forget about ethics, just this technical. So don't you think that since you're running, some non-profit organizations as well, so it's about time that media owners, they understand the value of training their staff, their teams?
Human resource management and training and development is another department altogether, which is important for every organization. One which we do not actually see in media organization. I've been part of the industry for like at least 10 years or so, but you see, that is one thing that I feel like which is missing from. So a lot of the channels that I've started off in the sense that is the training that when they were launched is the human resource got. And you didn't see sort of anything happening. Say, for instance, I have a corporate background also. So after every 6 or 8 months, there used to be an opportunity where the human resource of that organization used to be trained in different sectors. The marketing, the sales, everyone used to be trained on different elements and so to speak, so that they can actually progress with the rest of the industry. This is something that is clearly missing from the media industry in Pakistan. And this role has been taken up, if you've seen recently, not just recently, by the not-for-profit sector. While it has been taken up by the not-for-profit sector, we've seen that the organizations have started to depend like, it's their job to do this.
These non-profits.
Yeah, whereas they may help you, not-for-profit sector may help you at a certain point, but to take things along, it's the organization's responsibility. So I think, well, it's about time, because if you see how, if you see what the future of the industry is, technology will play a huge role. And if the media industry does not adapt, and if they don't have trained staff, and we've had events in the past where news organizations either have failed to launch or have converted their language to become a much more popular mainstream news channel, or have simply just shut down their operations. So when you see such things, the ultimate victim in all of this is basically your human resource, which you leave high and dry.
So at this point, you don't see probably a commercial compulsion for the media owners to adapt, to make sure that they train their staff. Is it because of the commercial interest?
No, I think it's the mindset is simply not there. Like, I may run a very small not-for-profit organization, but when I bring in people for a specific project, and if it's a research project, I would want qualified people. Otherwise, I'd end up doing everything on my own. So that whole process of having trained staff or having the ability to train staff, I think it's more of a mindset rather than commercial. It doesn't take much to take people along.
For example, you mentioned this non-profit sector taking care of the training journalists, and of course, lots of American organizations are playing important role. ICFJ, for that matter, they bring in journalists all year round and train them, place them into different media outlets, and then send them back. So, and every time such groups come, they also come to VOA and the Urdu service, and I have found this to be quite a good experience to interact with them and basically explaining the way we operate, the ethics, the standards, the guidelines, and so many other aspects that, because writing a report is not just a clerical job. It involves lots of factors. Prayush, one of another aspect or another facet to your personality is your work, as you mentioned earlier, your work in the non-profits. And you have been running a very good organization called Agahi, right? Tell us about Agahi.
Well, Agahi started off as an initiative back in 2000, late 2010. I later then registered it as a not-for-profit organization in 2011, roughly around. And since then, it has been working in essentially two domains. One is media research, and the second component is the training and development component. And what we have sort of accomplished gradually is how do you appreciate quality content and what are those parameters which are required. I'm on the board of advisory for Center for International Media Ethics, and they helped me develop a framework which were basically in essence taken from UNESCO's media development indicators as a foundation. In terms of how do you enable a journalist to actually structure content which is not only ethically responsible, but also showcases his or her level of competence. So all throughout the year, while we do training in different sectors, it could be health, it could be education, something which are inherently important to Pakistan. Then at the end of the year, we tend to evaluate journalists with the help of international and national jury panel in terms of how in different categories, 15 to 30 odd categories.
Very sorry to interrupt. Hold the thought here.
Yeah.
We just have to take a short break, and then after we come back, we'll continue on this discussion. Please stay with us.
Now, in no way we are trying to demean or belittle anyone's professional competence, but it helps us sort of see what are those challenges that different media organizations sort of face, or what are those challenges that current affairs anchors sort of face.
Welcome back. Okay, Prayush, so let's talk about Agahi and its mission and its challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, after working, for so many years in that environment, do you think, what sort of impact you see in the media?
Here I like to mention two of the things that we've accomplished greatly is one is the annual journalism awards, which are called the Agahi Awards. They are very well recognized in Pakistan and also internationally. And the second is the Media Credibility Index that actually assesses the performance of different current affairs anchors and their programs. Now, when I say about assessing performance, it actually means how do they carry out a balanced conversation in their programs, how do they conduct a program vis-a-vis in terms of engaging their guests, what kind of areas and topics do they cover. So that is one aspect of the credibility index. Now, in no way we are trying to demean or belittle anyone's professional competence, but it helps us sort of see what are those challenges that different media organizations sort of face, or what are those challenges that current affairs anchors sort of face. That is one aspect. The second aspect is the all throughout the year, when I was mentioning earlier, how do you assess performance of a journalist? A journalist's performance should be based on the stories that he or she produces, and who's going to evaluate that. One of the criteria for bringing people, and we've had very renowned jury members on our panel, we've been quite lucky that way, is to actually someone who does not have direct influence on the local media industry, and yet has the ability to actually, based on a framework that we created across 7 different indicators, to assess the performance of a journalist, regardless whether be it print or broadcast or radio. It's the content at the end of the day that actually tells us whether it is socially acceptable in such a way that it does not hurt the interest of minority groups. It does not impinge on human rights issues in the country, and yet it covers everything in a very holistic 360 degrees manner. So those two mainly have been the outcomes a step further away from this is when we come into the research domain. One of the recent initiative we started is the Pakistan Foresight Initiative. The reason for actually doing this is sort of to understand how decision making at policy levels sort of impacts day-to-day business in Pakistan. So it's a very tall order that we're...
Very briefly, we just have a few seconds literally. Yeah. Insensitivity to several social issues, like, you see so much, like, being insensitive to women, children, minorities. Yeah. What are you doing about that?
Well, yes. If you look at the content evaluation framework, which we actually use as a guiding principle in helping a journalist train in different sectors, be it education, gender empowerment, or health, is to actually tell them, like, you do not. How, if a child is a rape victim, how would you cover that story? So what is the level of empathy and sensitivity which is required? So in our training programs, that empathy and compassion factor in a storytelling is already built in. So a lot of that gets filtered. Now, many of the time, those people who are not trained or professionally competent or are insensitive to such issues can actually get away, but we've seen a rise of civil society.
Sorry, our time is up. I wish we could go on and on. It's such an interesting topic, personally for me, and of course for our media professionals. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Cafe DC. See you next time.